Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be a little different from my previous stuff. I'm basically just going to draw something in real time and talk about it. So today I'm drawing the Pyramids of Giza. I'm kind of obsessed with ancient civilizations, and Egypt has always been quite fascinating to me. So I thought while I draw this, I'll just talk about what makes them so intriguing to me. I hope you can relax, enjoy watching me draw, and maybe you'll learn a thing or two. Anyways, for this drawing, I'm using some charcoal, some blending sticks, a knead eraser, and a precision eraser for highlights. I'll talk a bit about those tools as we go. So I'm first starting by blocking in the pyramid shapes and building the composition. I'm using some willow charcoal to sketch out the basic forms. I always start with a loose structure so I can adjust easily if needed, and because these shapes are all about proportion and subtle perspective, it's kind of important to get that right early on before adding details. Even just looking at these forms now, I get this feeling of awe. These aren't just triangles, these are thousands of years old. They've outlasted wars, civilizations, and empires. My interest in ancient civilizations started when I was a kid. I'd see documentaries or flip through books about Egypt, the Mayans, or Mesopotamia, and I'd just get hooked. There was this mystery, this feeling that we don't really know everything about the past. We mainly make assumptions, but that's what pulls me in. The Pyramids of Giza were supposedly built over 4,500 years ago, around 2,560 BCE. The Great Pyramid, which I'm drawing here, is made up of over 2 million blocks of stone, and some of those stones weigh up to 80 tons. Just think about that for a second. Moving 80-ton stones without cranes, trucks, or iron tools across a sandy desert. It originally stood at 146.6 meters tall and was the tallest man-made structure on Earth for over 3,800 years. Until the Lincoln Cathedral in England was built in the 1300s. As I'm laying in some shadow here, I'm thinking about how this drawing is just a tiny echo of something unimaginably massive and permanent. One of the things that blows my mind is how the pyramid is aligned with true north, within a margin of less than 0.07 degrees. Now that's more precise than most modern buildings. And they didn't have compasses. So how did they do it? Some theories say they used stars, like observing the circumpolar stars and tracking their movements to find true north. Others think they might have used the shadow of the sun. Either way, it took this deep knowledge and patience. But it gets weirder. The base perimeter of the pyramid divided by twice its height equals pi. The ratios of the pyramid seem to encode this planetary data, like the dimensions of Earth or the curvature of the planet. Coincidence? Maybe. But how many coincidences before it's not just a coincidence anymore? The mainstream theory is that the pyramids were built using massive labor forces, ramps, and copper tools. But honestly, a lot of that just doesn't add up for me. The scale, the logistics, moving millions of stone with perfect precision, you need a system. And maybe they had one, but we haven't really found those blueprints. Some Egyptologists have even suggested they poured the stones like concrete, using some kind of ancient geopolymer. Others think there was a lost technology we haven't rediscovered yet. I'm not saying aliens. I'm not even saying we need to throw out all those old ideas. But I think it's okay and good to be skeptical and ask, what don't we know yet? Now, people get weirdly defensive about this, like it threatens our intelligence to admit the ancients might have been capable of things that we don't fully understand. I think part of the reason people resist the idea that ancient civilizations were advanced is because we define advancement in a really narrow way today. Like, we've got iPhones, so we must be smarter. But what if they were advanced in different ways? They understood nature, astronomy, spirituality, life and death cycles, and how to build for permanence. We understand convenience, tech, algorithms, and speed. And hey, I'm grateful for all of that. I love being able to make these videos, post online, and do all these things. But it does come at a cost. We as a civilization create tons of waste, pollute oceans with plastic. The ancients built zero-waste societies, at least from what we know, aligned their structures with the stars, and seemed to live in rhythm with nature. Now that doesn't make them better or worse, just different. And instead of dismissing it, I think we should be curious. What can we learn from their way of thinking? Now I'm using blending sticks here to soften some of the period's shadowed side of the subject, and I want the contrast between the light hitting one face and the deep shadows on the other. Sometimes I'll go back in with a kneaded eraser to pick out highlights, especially to suggest that edge where the sunlight might catch the stone. The thing I love about drawing ancient architecture is that it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, the little irregularities make it feel more authentic. Just like in the real structures, where erosion and time add texture. So one of the most overlooked aspects of the pyramids, especially the Great Pyramid, is the spiritual purpose behind it. This wasn't just a tomb. In ancient Egyptian belief, the pyramid was sort of an ascension chamber, a way to guide the pharaoh's soul to the stars. The shape itself, that upward point, symbolized reaching toward the divine. Inside the pyramid, there are mysterious shafts that seem to align with specific stars, like Orion's belt, which was associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Others pointed to Sirius, linked to Isis. So in a way, this building wasn't just a grave, it was a cosmic launchpad, and I find that to be quite poetic. Now here's where it gets controversial. Mainstream Egyptology attributes the Great Pyramid to Khufu, a pharaoh of the 4th dynasty, around 2500 BCE. But there's no clear inscription inside the pyramid saying Khufu built this or this is for Khufu. What does exist is a small red mark in one of the upper chambers that mentions Khufu's name, and that was discovered in the 1800s under some questionable circumstances. Some believe it could have been faked to give the structure a dynastic timeline. Then you've got some researchers who propose that the pyramid is much older, potentially thousands of years older than currently believed. Some even think it predates dynastic Egypt entirely, maybe from an earlier lost civilization. And now I'm not saying I know the answer, but I think it's worth asking the question. Plus, the idea of a lost civilization is truly intriguing, which is why I'm obsessed with the works of Graham Hancock. Someone I definitely recommend you check out if you're interested in this sort of stuff. Think about this. The quality of stonework declined in Egypt over time. The earlier pyramids, especially the Great Pyramid, are more precise than the ones that come after. Shouldn't it be the opposite? Shouldn't technology improve over time? This has led some researchers to suggest that the knowledge used to build Giza was inherited rather than invented by the later Egyptians. Maybe they maintained the monuments, maybe they understood their symbolism, but maybe, just maybe, the original builders were a culture with different tools or knowledge we haven't uncovered yet. There's something magnetic about ancient Egypt. Even after thousands of years, people are still obsessed. And I don't think that's just because of mummies and golden masks. It's because Egypt represents this mystical mix of science and soul, math and magic. Their culture had this holistic view of life. They honored the body, the spirit, the earth, the stars, and the cycles of time. I think people today are craving that balance. We live in a world of speed, convenience, and constant input. but there's something grounding about looking back at a civilization that seemed to really understand the long game. Not just efficiency, but meaning. I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. We tend to think we're the most advanced humans ever because we've got all this tech and plastics and satellites. But advancement isn't just about gadgets. The ancients were advanced in different ways. They built without waste. They lived according to natural cycles, tracked the stars with their eyes and calendars. We built fast, they built forever. They didn't have plastic polluting their rivers, they didn't have microchips, but maybe they didn't need them. Maybe their goals were different. That doesn't mean we're doing it wrong, but maybe there's something to learn from how they did it. I think that's part of why I love drawing this stuff. As I'm refining the edges here, adding in some shadows and picking out subtle highlights, I'm not just copying a shape, I'm trying to tap into that feeling. The weight of time, the beauty of structure, and the connection between earth and sky. Art is one of my ways of trying to understand things that I don't fully get. I can't go to Giza right now, but I can explore it with my hands and eyes, one line at a time. If you've watched this far, first of all, thank you. I really enjoyed having this time to think out loud and draw something meaningful. And I'd love to know what you think. Do you believe the pyramids were built by the Egyptians we know from history? Or do you think there's more to the story? More broadly, what ancient cultures or mysteries fascinate you the most? Drop it in the comments, because I'd love to dive deeper into other civilizations in future videos. I think I'm going to turn this into a series, just drawing while I talk about what interests me. And if you enjoyed this slower, more thoughtful style of video, let me know. I want this channel to be a space for curiosity, creativity, and just decompressing from the noise of modern life. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I plan on posting more regularly, and I've got some interesting stuff in the pipeline. Thanks again for watching.